The Oregon Trail. I'm sure you've heard of it, maybe even played the game. If you don't already know, traveling the Oregon Trail was tough, but I want to tell you about the sights they saw. I'm going to tell you about some of the more famous sights they saw along the way. And for some of the sites, I will give a brief history and just an explanation. These places can still be visited today. I know because I went. Our family went on the Oregon Trail when I was 10. The whole trip took us 5 weeks by car. At this point in time, my mom had decided to start homeschooling us. She took it way seriously. Our Oregon Trail trip was our first history lesson. I loved it though. I found the Oregon Trail very interesting, and I think you will too. So here's what I'll be talking about. We will start at the beginning of the Oregon Trail and work our way along the sites until we reach Oregon. I did my best to find pictures to show you, but the internet didn't always have what I was looking for. I will also, for most of the sites, give a brief history. So where to start? The Oregon Trail had 4 starting points, but I'm going to start at the most used one, Independence, Missouri. Independence, Missouri was the place to start. Anybody who was anybody in the 1840s started at the Gateway Arch. While here, they could buy what they needed to get so that they could leave. Now I'm going to take you along the trail. Starting from Missouri, the pioneers headed west. Their first major landmark that also reminded them that they were going the right direction was Courthouse Rock. Courthouse Rock was named after the courthouse in St. Louis. If you ask me though, they look nothing alike. Now about 12 miles west was Chimney Rock. For the pioneers, Chimney Rock signaled the end of the prairies. Now they were headed for the Rocky Mountains. After more traveling, the pioneers made it to a place called Fort Laramie. Fort Laramie was started by fur traders in 1834. In 1849, the U.S. Army bought the fort and named it after a French fur trader named Jacques Laramie. Now once the pioneers had rested and got supplies that they needed, they could head to our next landmark, Independence Rock. Independence Rock has to be one of my favorite sites that we saw on our trip. This site came to be one of the most famous landmarks along the trail. One reason it became so famous was because of the names carved on it by passing travelers. It was also a good place to rest, but they had to move on. This rock formation was kind of like a guest book. Everyone wrote on it when they passed by. It was very cool. And if you want to see pictures of it, I can show you afterwards. From here on, I couldn't really find any more pictures of the places I want to show you, so I'm going to show it to you on a map. Now, our next landmark was a fort called Fort Bridger. This fort was named after Jim Bridger, who built the fort as a trade post in 1842. It's Fort Bridger. Next in line was the Soda Springs. Right here. The Soda Springs were named for their natural bubbling pools of carbonated water. Right after the springs was Fort Hall. Fort Hall was used as a dumping ground for things the pioneers no longer wanted to take with them. Many even left their wagons, and they went the rest of the way on foot. Later on, they used it as a trade post. Here's Fort Hall. Guess what? Another fort. This fort, Fort Boise, was a supply point until 1854. After 1854, it was abandoned due to Indian attacks and flooding. A new fort was built later near Boise, Idaho. Fort Boise. Now we come to a sad part in the journey, the Whitman Mission. This, for travelers, was yet another place to get supplies, but it was also a place to witness to the surrounding Indians. In 1847, a measles epidemic spread through the mission. Many Indians got sick and died, while the Whitman family didn't. The Indians thought that this had to be part of their religion, and thus killed the whole Whitman family and 11 other people. Everything they owned was burned to the ground. It was a tragedy. The next part in our journey was very, very hard. The Dalles. This was a river filled with sharp rocks and hidden whirlpools. The pioneers had to float down this river on rafts to get to Oregon City. Later on, though, a safer but longer trail was found that avoided the Dalles altogether. Now, finally, after all that crazy journey that they made, Oregon City. It was the place of peace with the Indians, and was populated very quickly. At this point, they could finally say, "I'm home." Today, this place is a suburb near Portland, Oregon. The pioneers went on a tough journey to get what they wanted. They traveled miles upon miles by foot, but they also got to see amazing things along the way. They saw forts, weird rock formations, vast prairies, and mountains. They saw it all. I encourage you to someday go to these sites. I guarantee you would love it. I sure did.